Have you ever heard of Siberian internment or repatriation? This is a story about 70 years ago, when Japan was in World War II. At the end of the war, the Soviet Union attacked Japan and there were a lot of victims. After the war, the Soviet Union took about 600,000 Japanese soldiers to frigid Siberia as captives. This is the start of what we call Siberian internment. Those captives could get only a little food and were forced to work long every day under minus 30 degrees Celsius. Many died of hunger or of illnesses. It is said that the number of people who died there and never returned to Japan was about 50,000 or 100,000. This number is more than the population of present-day舞鶴city. And what's worse, it was so cold that many suffered from frostbite and had to have their arms or legs cut off or became sick. No one could tell how long they could bear to live. This severe situation lasted nearly 10 years. Repatriation means that those people who managed to survive finally came back to a Japanese port, Maizuru. It is said that 346 repatriation boats arrived at Maizuru Bay over 13 years. People living in Maizuru warmly welcomed these repatriated soldiers who finally reached Maizuru by boat. This is a story about a strong bond between people who lived the hard life in Siberia and a dog named Kuro. Please enjoy the show.
In 1945, when World War II was over, many Japanese soldiers still remained overseas. Among them, there were some who, despite the war being over, lived and worked in the Russian province of Siberia, because they were too far away from Japan to go back. Out there, the weather is freezing cold. In Siberia, the Japanese people lived in place called internment camps.
There, the people could only eat a tiny portion of bread and soup, and they were made to work from morning until night. These were painful and distressing times for them. In fact, many of them would die from sicknesses they got from the cold weather. All of them would think of their families back at home and dream about the day they could return to Japan.
One day, at an internment camp, a black puppy appeared. This puppy, who was abandoned outside the camp's workplace, was picked up by one of the residents of the camp. The people in the camp called the dog Kuro and loved the dog very much. After the residents came back to the camp, Kuro was always waiting for them with a wagging tail. Everyone was always hungry, but they would still give Kuro a share of what little food they had.
When they played baseball, Kuro would play with them. Kuro would pick up and bring back fly balls with grace. By playing what they called Kuro baseball, the residents had something they could do for fun in their unpleasant lives. One night, everyone was asleep. Kuro, who was always quiet, suddenly barked in a loud voice. When the residents woke up, they saw that the warehouse was on fire. Who knows what would have happened to them if they had kept sleeping? But thanks to Kuro, everyone was fine. Kuro became everyone's moral support.
The days of grief spent in Siberia lasted 14 years, but in 1956, the day finally came when all the Japanese who remained alive were permitted to go home to Japan by boat. One boat was called the Koanmaru. However, there were no dogs allowed on this boat. On one cold December morning, the large group, not including Kuro, got onto the boat and left Siberia. Everyone thought of their hometowns and were overwhelmed with all sorts of emotion.
Look, Kuro! It's Kuro!
The people on the boat saw the black dog desperately running towards them. Kuro was chasing after the boat. Kuro was running on the ice, floating over the ocean, chasing after them with all her might.
Kuro! Go back!
You'll die out here!
Go back to the shore!
Everyone shouted out to Kuro, but because of a crack in the ice, the dog ended up falling into the cold ocean. Everyone on the boat began to cry out in horror and grief.
Just then, the captain of the ship stopped the boat. The sailor dropped down to the ocean with a ladder, found Kuro, and carried the dog in his arms. Kuro shook out her trembling body, and happily wagged her tail.
Thank goodness! Oh, thank goodness!
Kuro risked her life chasing after us.
Everyone cried tears of joy, and so everyone returned to Japan along with Kuro. And just like that, it was decided that Kuro, the dog from Siberia, would live in Japan.
Later on, Kuro would give birth to some energetic puppies. They looked just like her. It is said that about 100,000 Japanese died in Siberia around this time. Amongst ever so painful lives in Siberia, the spirits of the Japanese there and Kuro are tightly connected. We are sure that right now Kuro is looking down on the sea in舞鶴from heaven with her adorable, gentle eyes.
How are you feeling now? Kuro came to舞鶴from Siberia, and then she was taken care of by a kind family in舞鶴, were puppies and spent the rest of her life happily. She brought joy to Siberian detainees, who spent the time with her smiling. We strongly hope this show will give each of you a chance to think about war and peace. Thank you.